Hello everyone, and I hope you are doing well. Welcome to the second chapter of my IELTS course, IELTS preparation course 0 to Hero, presented by, me, Farzad Abarqui. In our previous videos, we covered the section on listening in detail. We understood which parts are going to be presented to us on the exam day, and we talked about different parts of the listening section, and we even went into some detail covering four actually parts, all the four parts of the listening exam from a transcription. We also understood that we have to listen and answer at the same time. We knew that it's not going to be possible to listen a second time. And also, we did not talk about strategies. Mostly, we talked about how to improve our listening by listening to the files that we have already used for testing material. Now we're going to discover what a reading on the IELTS exam actually includes, and then we'll talk about more strategies later. So what do we have? Actually, what are different parts that we're going to cover in this video? First, we're talking about different sections, the purposes, everything that each section has. After that, we talk about different question types, and then we will go to general advice. Some tips and tricks, some things that help you prepare. So let's start with the first part, different sections. What does each section do? IELTS reading section has 3 passages, 40 questions, in total 60 minutes to answer. Different content, same questions for academic and general. What do I mean by that? I mean that in the academic module, the questions, the text, the passages are a little bit more difficult, slightly more difficult. They are taken as excerpts from academic journals. They are a little bit more difficult. They are about academic subjects, not everyday subjects, as you can see in general module. But what is important is that the academic ideas are not too specific and not too specialized. They're only general information about an academic subject. The question types, however, are the same, and that's what I meant by different content and same questions. The general test has a variety of question types. It is mostly about social survival, how you can actually read text relevant to basic ideas, basic and general ideas, everyday ideas in English. Then the second actually purpose was workplace survival, the purpose for the exam, actually what the exam tries to test in you. Sometimes the texts, they focus on the workplace context. The reading that you have, that you're presented with, actually includes information about a working situation. And then we have another purpose for general reading, some more extended prose about maybe more various topics. Anything could be here, anything non-academic could be presented in this part and in the general module. But the academic one, the question types again are the same. It is there's no guarantee that you will face one specific question type, but the question types are not that much different from the general exam. The texts are from books, journals, magazines, and newspapers, and there are different styles. There may be texts that are actually scientific, literary, in any field, like a travelogue, for example. Anything could be here. The texts are from journals and magazines and academic ones, but they are designed for a non-specialist audience, and they're of general interest. All the topics are described in a way that a person who is not familiar with the topic can understand, but the choice of vocabulary and grammar, that's a little bit more difficult than the general exam. At least one text contains detailed logical argument. It is not only about how well you can read the text, sometimes it's about how well you can infer the meaning that is implied. And it may contain nonverbal materials, of course, some pictures, diagrams, things that you need to name according to the passage that you read. So we can see that it is not only a test of language, both in general and academic, but the academic module is more designed to test how well students can actually come out of an argument, detailed logical argument, how well the students can handle that, the test takers can handle that. The next thing that we need to know, and of course I should also add that the number of questions does not change. 40 questions for general and academic modules, and 1 hour for the whole thing, and 20 minutes actually for each reading passage. So let's go through the question types. Let's see what types of questions we have in a reading exam. The first one is multiple choice. You need to choose the best answer choice. Sometimes it is 1 out of 4, 2 out of 5, 3 out of 7, and so on. You need to choose the best answer. The best answer is actually what describes the situation in the best way. For example, you may face a main idea question, but in a multiple choice format. The choices that you're given may all be correct and true information based on the text, but they may not be the main idea. Multiple choice questions appear in the same order as the information in the text. For instance, if the first answer is found in paragraph 1 and the second one is found in paragraph 3, the third one will be in paragraph 4 or 5 or 6, not in paragraph 2. You can see an example of a multiple choice question. You have 4 answer choices. You need to read them carefully and pick the best one for your answer. We'll go through detail when we actually practice one in a video. In another video actually. And then we have identifying information. We also know this as true, false, or not given. The most important thing in true, false, and not given type, or the identifying information type, is to know the difference between false and not given. Of course, we all know what true means. Sometimes the information is mentioned directly and sometimes not directly. You need to infer the information there. But false and not given, that's very important. Take this example. Few people in this country are rich. Then you get a choice, then you get a question. Many people here in this country are poor. Is it true, false, or not given? Well, of course, it's not true. But what about false and not given? We had few people are rich. Now we have most people in this country are poor. This is not given. We don't know about the many people who are left. We don't know if they have a mediocre life. They are poor people. We don't know which category actually includes them. So this would be not mentioned. So that's very important to know what the difference between not given or not mentioned and false is. Another thing that is important here is that knowledge from outside the passage should not play a part when deciding on answers. In other words, you may be familiar with the topic that you're reading, but what is important is that you need to find evidence in the passage, inside the passage, not anything that you have read before. Actually, most of the times, these are information that you're not familiar with. But sometimes it occurs that the field that you have studied, for example, in university, is actually the field that on which actually there's a reading in your reading section of the IELTS exam. But here, try not to answer based on your own knowledge. First of all, you may be mistaken. Second of all, finding the evidence to answer the questions in the text is always safe. And you can see one sample of this type of question here. Some actually statements are picked from the passage. Usually here keywords play an important role. In fact, questions that include more keywords, they're not correct so most of the times, but we'll go through more detail about this later in the practice video. The next question type is identifying views and claims. Yes, no, or not given. This is somehow like true, false, not given. We need to know the difference between no and not given, and knowledge from outside the passage should not play a part when deciding on answers. Pretty much the same with true, false, and not given. So the question is, do the following statements agree with the views of the writer in the passage? So you say yes, no, or not mentioned. Same rules apply, same points to pay attention to, and I don't think it is very vague here. The next question type will be matching information. I believe this is the most difficult one for many students, according to the feedback that I have had from all my students. Matching information, endings, headings, this is where the students actually make a lot of mistakes. I've had students who answer who actually have 2 correct answers in matching information out of 13 questions. So you need to be careful here. You need to locate specific information, specific details, an example, a reason, a description, a comparison, a summary, an explanation, whatever, anything in the text could be picked up here. And you need to find out the keyword and then scan for specific information. For instance, you see the question here, you see that scientific success is actually a phrase here. Now you pick the keywords and you scan the paragraphs to see which paragraph includes the information about this specific idea, and then you mark that as your answer. The most important thing is to know the topic sentences, to find out the keywords, and to know which words actually are the keywords in the paragraph. The next question type will be matching headings. Same rules apply. You need to find out the main idea or theme in the paragraphs or sections. This is a little bit more general than the matching information, like sentences, completing sentences, and whatever. Matching headings is only about the topic sentences, the main ideas. And I say topic sentences because they mostly include all the information that is necessary to understand, most of the information that is necessary to understand the whole paragraph. So you'll be given a list of headings instead of a list of information and ideas. The main idea of a paragraph or section of the text is actually what you're gonna see, and you'll be given several more choices. Actually, if you have 8 paragraphs, you will have 10 choices, for example, or 11 choices. If you have 5 paragraphs, you will have about 8 or 9 choices. You will have more choices than answers, and this is gonna throw you off the course. Matching sentence endings. Here you need to know how the ideas are developed. In fact, people who have a good skill in writing, they usually have no problem with this part, matching sentence endings, paying attention to the subjects, objects, verbs, adverbs, and the development of the idea. The test takers are given the first half of a sentence based on the text, and they need to complete it from a list of possible options. And the ability to understand the main ideas within a sentence is very important. I believe that the most important thing is to understand the structure of a text. Idea first, explanation next, and then example or more explanation. No need to worry about this. We'll go into more detail. We will practice all of these questions in our practice session. Don't worry about this. I'm just here to tell you the general ideas now, and then in the practice video we'll go through details in every single question. And here we have matching features. In matching features, we actually need to pay attention to categories, the organizations. There are some categories, different categories, and we need to pick them and actually put them in the right category. Look at the question. Look at the following descriptions and the list of items below. Match each description with the correct term. Each term may have a description, may have a definition, may have features, and you need to connect them. Options are a group of features, and the ability to recognize relationships and connections between facts is actually the most important rule here, the most important ability here. Again, if you know how to connect different ideas in your text, you're gonna have no problem with answering the question here. And sentence completion is something that you don't have many other choices here. You actually use your own words, not your own words, the words from the passage, but you may or may not need to make necessary adjustments. For example, you see a verb, but you need a noun. You need a noun, you have an adjective. You have an adjective, you need a verb. That's how you need to change the information. You need to complete the sentences in a given number of words taken from the text. Given number of words and word limits. If you pay attention to the example that I have provided here, you can see that you cannot write more than 3 words. Sometimes more than 2 words, sometimes 1 word, sometimes word or a number. Whatever the case, you have a word limit. If you write more than that, the answer is not gonna be correct, even if you have the right information, but you have exceeded the limits, actually the word limit, your answer is gonna be marked as wrong. The ability to look at details or specific information plays an important role here. And you may have less words than the limit actually, fewer words than the limit actually wants. That's correct, that's not a problem. You cannot exceed it, that's the only problem. And summary, note, table, flowchart, completion. This is easy, this is the easiest part. You don't even need to read the whole passage to answer the question, because if you know the text structure well, you can answer all of the questions without actually reading the passage. Or you can at least have a clear idea of which blank, actually, which part, which question needs what kind of answer. For example, some times we need nouns, sometimes we need adjectives, verbs, adverbs. You can only find this out by looking at the questions. For example, the example that I have provided here, number 1, after the, we need a noun, of course. The, a, or an, we have the. Then we have the second one, by, there's a blank, and preserving milk. So we have and we have by. After by, we have an ing form, and after and, we have a word that plays the same role as the word before and. So probably the answer here will be ingesting. So that's how we actually answer the questions here. If you read the passage, of course your answer is gonna be correct, and you should pay attention that I don't have all the correct all the correct actually picks here. I mean, the choices that I have actually picked, they don't include all the information. So it was just an example that we need an ing form, a gerund, in number 2. So keep that in mind. The next one is diagram completion, the labels. You see a picture, you need to complete it, you need to name the different parts. You also have a word limit here, and you need to understand the details and the descriptions. A specific idea is described, and then you need to find out which part describes which part. This is not easy, not very much different from the flow chart and table completion, but a little bit, actually it's easier because it has a picture. You need to imagine all the things that you can read. And it does not necessarily occur in order in the passage, so you need to be careful about that as well. Short answer questions, again, they have word limit. You need to find out the specific information, factual information, and details. So the same rule of word limit applies here, and there you can see an example. You need to answer the question, no more than 2 words, and then what is another name for Easter eggs? That's, for example, an instance of this type of questions. And then now that we are done with the question types, we will go to general advice. What should we worry about in reading? Well, most of the time the students read too fast or too slow. They read too fast because they think they need to finish it quickly so that they can answer all the questions. They are hurried, but this way they will lose focus and concentration. They will not understand the word that they're reading. Sometimes they read too slow in an attempt to actually understand the passage more clearly, and that will lead to them actually needing more time to answer the whole question. Some questions will be unanswered. Don't read too fast or too slow. Maintain a balance. Sometimes you don't need to read the whole reading, and sometimes there are some paragraphs which you need to read completely. The ability to find out which one is which is actually the most important idea here. You can underline main ideas and keywords in your question paper. The paper can be on. You can do whatever you want actually on the paper. You can take notes. You can write down something. You can even draw pictures if you're bored. So don't worry about this. Also, most of the times you don't need to read word by word. Find out the main ideas, then you're golden. And answer the questions rather than being too concerned about question types. Of course, I introduced the question types. It's very important to know them. But some students are preoccupied with this. They read a question and they're like, all right, what was this question type? What type of question is this? What was the strategy? Read the question, see what the question wants from you. Read the question with detail and carefully. If there are word limits, anything. For instance, I had a student. She had one actually yes/no question, but instead of yes/no, she wrote true and false. That means she lost 9 questions, even though she understood everything. But she had true and false instead of yes and no. She actually wrote that. And that's because she didn't read the question clearly and carefully. Thank you very much. It was very nice of you to listen. Thank you very much for listening. We have actually more stuff to go on with. We have writing and speaking. Aside from writing, which comes next, there's only one skill to go. Very proud of you. Hope you liked this video, and make sure you watch the practice session after this one. Have a good one.